Do you know that feeling when you decide to play a game of chess and then for some reason your opponent just decides to play the Jobava London and you're sitting there like, why me? Why does it always have to be me? Well, the last time this happened to me and I said enough. I'm gonna look up a really nice line against the Jobava London and I'm going to teach them a lesson. So I actually found a fascinating line with stockfish which sacrifices a piece. And it's really interesting. So let's take a look at it. White, of course, plays the Jobava London with knight to c3, bishop to f4. The idea, of course, is that if you do nothing, he's gonna play knight to b5 and try to take here on c7. So that's why a6 is a common move here, preventing that. Now after e3, we're gonna play c5, just striking in the center, and after he takes the pawn, we're gonna play e6, of course. And we're gonna try to just regain the pawn with our bishop. Now white, of course, wants to prevent that, and he plays knight a4, just simply defending this pawn with the knight. So we're gonna play knight to d7 here, attacking it once more, and now white is going to play b4. Okay, so now what should we do about these pawns? There's a very well-known idea in these kinds of positions that comes from different openings. One is to play a5, one is to play b6, basically. We want to attack these pawns and to make them weak. Now, for example, if we play something like a5 and he takes, you can see that he has very bad pawns and we're gonna take all of them, you know. I mean, here, of course, it doesn't work because we can just win the knight. But even if this wasn't the case, we're gonna pick up this pawn is going to be weak, this one also. So you can see what is the idea behind breaking these pawns. But our move here is going to be b6, just putting pressure on the c5 pawn, and he has to do something. Now taking here on b6 is not that great because we can just take back with the knight, and if he takes our knight, we don't take the knight back immediately, but we play bishop takes b4 check, and only then we're gonna pick up this knight, also leaving white with a bad c pawn. So that's why a really better move here for white is just to play c6, attacking our knight, and it seems like we're in trouble here. It looks like our knight is kind of trapped, you know, because we can't go anywhere here, and if we go back, he has c7, attacking our queen and our knight. So what's the idea here? Well, look at this line. We take the pawn with the bishop, we give him a check, of course. He plays c3 and he attacks both our bishop and our knight, so we're gonna lose a piece here. We play bishop to a5, and after he takes our knight, we recapture it with a bishop. Okay, now where is our compensation for the piece? You can see that this bishop is attacking the knight, so the queen is not free to move anywhere and it has to protect it. The knight is also not free to move anywhere because we have this bishop here that is gladly going to take this pawn on c3, making some nasty attacks here. Also, we have the open c file, which we're gonna use. We're gonna play rook to c8, attacking this c3 pawn again. Now we can expect our next moves to be something like knight e4, rook to c8, and you can see that this this pawn is really weak. And also our king is one move away from safety. His king is quite a lot of moves away from safety. So let's see how the game proceeds. White plays queen to d4, we play queen to e7, with basically the idea of going here to a3, attacking this knight for the second time, and also attacking the pawn on c3, which would just destroy, absolutely destroy white. So here he plays knight to b2, we play knight to e4, of course putting more pressure on the c3 pawn, and white has to do something. Because, you know, otherwise we're just gonna take it with the bishop and win the queen. So that's why white plays knight to e2, protecting the pawn. But the bad thing about this move for white is that, of course, he blocks in his bishop and he's not going anywhere with his king, you know. He's not gonna castle because he can't. Okay, we play f6 here because, of course, our pawn here was hanging, and we could also have some e5 possibilities in the future. So here, white will play bishop to g3, just avoiding that. We're gonna play rook to c8, putting more pressure here on this weak c3 pawn. And even though white is a piece up, it seems really annoying to play as white here. Because, you know, you're pinned in all directions and you're on the defensive side. So here, white's gonna play rook to c1, defending the pawn. We're gonna play queen to a3 finally. Again, attacking this pawn, attacking the knight also. He has to protect it with rook to c2. And after king to f7, you can see that we have all we need in this position. Now, what are white's options here? I mean, he can play knight to d1, I guess, protecting the c3 pawn once again. But now we're gonna play rook to c4, attacking the queen, and after the queen moves, we can play bishop to b5. We have some really nasty discoveries with the rook here, also attacking the queen. And of course, if white does nothing, if he plays something like h3, we have rook to a4. And look at this move. The queen is trapped in the middle of the board. It has no squares and white is just losing. But yeah, if white does anything else, let's say knight to d4, we just take on c3 with the rook. And of course, the queen is attacked. We're gonna win the queen. If he takes it back with the knight, we just take the queen. He takes back, and we're gonna take this knight as well because it's pinned. After he castles, we just take the piece. And if we count the pieces now, guys, we can see that we have a queen against a rook and a bishop. And we also have an extra pawn. And an extra 2 pawns, I'm sorry. So this is completely winning for us. And don't forget, I found all this with stockfish. So I think I'm gonna give it a shot in my next game. What about you?